Hi, I'm Ken Jacobson, Senior Documentary Programmer, AFI Festivals, and I want to welcome you to AFI Docs 2020, presented by AT&T, and to this Q&A for the film A Thousand Cuts, directed by Ramona S. Diaz. First, I want to thank our supporters of the festival, our presenting sponsor, AT&T, our AFI members, and of course, you, our audience. I also want to let you know that the screening of A Thousand Cuts is presented by the Washington Post Press Freedom Partnership. Before introducing Ramona, who's gracious enough to be with us today for this conversation, I want to let you know about a special live event that is happening as part of the AFI Docs Forum on Friday, June 19th from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern. The program is called A Washington Post Press Freedom Partnership Conversation with Philippine journalist Maria Ressa and filmmaker Ramona Diaz. And the session will be moderated by the Post's global opinions writer, Jason Rezaian. The session is live, so for more information about how to access it and all of the forum live content, please go to docs.afi.com, that's docs.afi.com, or you can email me directly at docsforum@afi.com. That's docsforum@afi.com. Now I'd like to tell you a bit about Ramona's background. Ramona S. Diaz is an award-winning filmmaker whose films have screened at Sundance, the Berlinale, Tribeca, the Viennale, IDFA, and other festivals. Her feature-length films, Imelda, The Learning, Don't Stop Believin', Every Man's Journey, and Motherland aired nationally on PBS. Ramona's latest film, which you've probably just seen, A Thousand Cuts, premiered at the 2020 Sundance Film Festival. So without further ado, Ramona, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Hi, Ken. Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And congratulations on the film. It's really a tremendous film, and we're thrilled to be able to screen it at AFI Docs.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for screening it.
Sure. So I just wanted to start by asking you, how you came to this story. It's such a rich story. There's so much here, but what was your entry point? How did you begin this journey?
Back in 2016, I was actually finishing my last film, Motherland. I started seeing all this really horrific photographs of the drug war on my Facebook feed. All roads lead to Facebook, right? But they were in my Facebook feed and it was getting more horrific. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what is happening? And 2016 is, of course, when Duterte became president, right, in the Philippines, and the drug war started. And I couldn't look away. It was one of those things, okay, I can't look away. What is happening? So I started talking to people, talking to my friends in the Philippines, talking to journalists, and talking to the people who were covering the drug war. They were called the Night Stalkers, right? They covered the night shift and they were covering the drug war at night. And that was my entry point. I couldn't turn away, and I knew I needed to tell that story because also I am a martial law baby. I grew up under martial law in the Philippines. So the Marcoses, who were in power for so long, like more than 20 years, left in 86. And now in 2016, we're back to some kind of I don't know, scary authoritarianism. And this was just a start, right? But I felt like, what went wrong? Mm-hmm. So that was my entry point. So I started researching.
And how did you go from that, draw the line from that to Maria Ressa and the team at Rappler?
So by 2017, I was in the Philippines. End of 2017, I was in the Philippines. I met one of the reporters at Rappler, Patricia Evangelista. She was the very first reporter I spoke to, and she was deep, covering the drug war. But then I still thought that maybe I was going to cover that. I was going to look at the drug war through journalists on the ground. And then by that was late 2017. By 2018, I was back. I raised enough money to basically moved to the Philippines until I found the story. So I think by March, April, I was in the Philippines. I talked to everyone, and it became apparent to me that Maria was one of the loudest voice speaking truth to power, right? Really And of course, they were suffering for it because Duterte was threatening to shut down Rappler. Rappler is an on-site uh, publication that she founded. So I arranged to meet with her, and we met, and it became clear that she was a part of the story, but she was also part of sort of this quilt of a story, right? Because there are other people, there are other characters in the film. I thought they were all going to be of equal weight then. But of course, fast forward to 2019 when I started real principal photography, because I then decided I was going to do it against the backdrop of the 2019 midterm elections. So I got to the ground February 12th. Was it February 12th? February 13th, Maria got arrested. And she actually, and I was in the country and I was still waiting for my crew to get in the next week. And she texted me and she said, Ramona, if you're not doing anything, can you come to headquarters because I'm getting arrested? I'm like, I think I can arrange to come to headquarters. So one thing led to another, and pretty soon I was allowed in detainment with her. And so it's like catching lightning in a bottle. So from then on, like the crew arrived and we were with her constantly until the end of elections, until end of May. So we covered her deeply for February, March, April, May. Yeah, like 4 months. And she became the star. I mean, obviously then it seems now so obvious, but that's how she became more of the main character.
Talk a bit more about Maria. I mean, just what you were just saying just now about how she's being detained, she's being arrested, and she has the presence of mind and the calmness to text you. She's just, obviously she's an extraordinary person in so many ways, but talk about how you came to know her over the course of those 3-4 months.
Maria is a journalist, right? She has covered war in Southeast Asia. So she has that real calmness, no matter what's going on. And she has this sort of irrepressible optimism that threw me a lot of times, because if you see in the film, right, she's getting arrested and she jokes about it sometimes. So sometimes it's like, oh my God, what's going on? But she's that because she feels like that is her, if she cries and breaks down, then they would have won. And that's her go-to, I think. Her go-to is to be optimistic and to really trust that the people, okay, maybe not the administration, but the lawyers, right, and the judges will find it in themselves to really look at the case and see its illegality, or read it for what it is, right, to be fair. She really believes in the injustice and the fairness of people. And that's like almost immovable for her. How I got to know her, I have this funny story. I don't know if I have time, but I have this story of like back in like 2004 when I released my first film, Imelda, right? Imelda sued us in the Philippines because she did not want us to release the film in the Philippines. To make a long story short, I went to the Philippines and I landed in the Philippines, and the distributor had a PR person come to me and said, these are the people who want to talk to you about the film and the case. And Maria Ressa was one of them. And she was then the face of CNN in Southeast Asia, right? She was CNN. She was like Wolf Blitzer of CNN in that region. So I'm like, oh my God. I said, oh, wow, Maria Ressa wants to talk to me. And they said, yeah, she doesn't really like the film. I'm like, she doesn't? I said, no, I don't want to talk about the film. I want to talk about the court case. They go, no, she wants to talk about it. I said, no, I just don't have the capacity for that. And I don't want to litigate the film. I want to talk about the litigation, right? The court case. So I told them to tell her I was busy. I turned down. And they were like, you don't turn down Maria Ressa. I said, I am because I'm so tired. So fast forward, what is it? This was 2018, like, so 14 years later, right? I'm in her office and I'm thinking, oh my God, she'll never remember, right? She will never. She's had many lives since then.
Yeah.
And of course she did. She brought it up. Like one of the first things, she got it out of it. She goes, remember you turned down my request to be interviewed? I'm like, huh? I'm like, you remember that? So I almost met her in 2004 and then I met her. But so that's my history with Maria. So it started off in that manner, right?
It's not just speaking truth to power. Sometimes it's speaking truth to filmmakers, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was that kind. And then we got, of course, when you shoot in such an immersive manner, at first it's a transactional relationship, obviously.
Hmm.
But beyond that, right, it moves beyond that pretty quickly, especially if you're constantly being arrested. And we traveled with her to New York. And, we became friends. And she had to trust me and the crew completely. And that goes beyond just a transaction. It's complete trust. And she decided to trust us. So I'm thankful.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that makes that relationship of trust apparent are the scenes that you shoot with her and her family. And I wondered if you could talk a bit about those scenes, and you know why you included them in the film, and what you think their importance is, because I think they are important.
Yeah, so there are two scenes with her sisters. I think they're key as well, because in one scene with Michelle, and that happened late in the shoot. That happened way after we even wrapped in Manila. That happened, yeah, over the summer. I felt it was all the questions that the audience wanted to ask Maria, right? It's like, why are you not afraid? What are you doing? How do you think about fear? So it is all the questions I wanted to know too. But it was Michelle who asked it. So that's why I think it's key, because it's Michelle's almost like the audience asking Maria. Um, and um, and the scene with the gown with Mary Jane, which I just love because it
Yeah.
just makes her so human, and that's Maria, right? Simple. She'll wear something she wore a decade ago and never even think twice about it. It just doesn't occur to her that it's an important thing, right? I thought it just made her so human, and that she is part of a family with
Mhm.
siblings, and you have all these issues with your siblings. The same thing. That's what siblings do, right? They
Yeah.
needle you. It's what they do. So I thought they were key. And
It
I
felt
didn't
very
know about Mary
universal.
Jane until we got to New York. I didn't know she was like that. That was the first time we met her, and she was amazing. Yeah.
The other thing I think those scenes show for me is just what's at stake for Maria. I mean, all this could go away, if she's arrested and they, put her in jail and throw away the key, which doesn't seem that far-fetched.
And also, if that happens to her, it has a ripple effect, right? She has family
Hmm.
that are scared. I mean, there are all these other people around her. So she's not, she has context, right?
Hmm.
That she has all these relationships.
You said something before about how Maria retains a sense of optimism because of the other institutions of government, the courts and the lawyers and so on. And I'm curious if you yourself have that same confidence in the other democratic institutions in the Philippines, and and just kind of where you see things heading.
Uh, I don't think I'm as optimistic as Maria.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but one thing though, I mean, I've seen some of the judges, right? They seem reasonable to me. I don't know what the pressures are on them, but they seem like reasonable people. So I have to believe in them as individuals, right? But the institution itself, right, the Supreme Court, it's stacked against Maria. It's full of Duterte people. So is Congress, right? So is the Senate now after the midterm elections. So I don't have a lot of faith. I wish I had. And then recently, a month ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, Duterte shut down the largest broadcasting company in the Philippines, ABS-CBN. So it's like if Trump shut down CBS or
Mm-hmm.
ABC, right? It's tantamount to
Or
that.
Fox.
Or, yeah, you're right. Okay, or Fox. Let's go do some magical thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, or Fox. But so it's tantamount to that, or CNN even, or something. But he shut it down because they said their franchise ran out. But the franchise was being sort of discussed in Congress, and it was really an illegal shutdown. So he could do anything. It's pandemic as well, right? Everyone is in strict lockdown in the country, so there's no protest. They can't even go out to protest because they're going to be arrested. Um, So yeah, it's a dire time for the
Yeah.
country.
But surprisingly, I guess, in some sense, Rappler is still going. It's still
Yeah,
online. It's still putting out stories and covering Duterte and the government.
because they were, I think, when Duterte tried to shut them down, they fought it in court.
Hmm.
Because one thing about, I think, the administration is that everything is under the veil of legality, right? So in a way, so right now it's lockdown, well, it's pandemic. Uh, Shut down ABS, well, because the franchise, right? It's not grabbing power, well, because the franchise. So so they will. So Rappler fought it in the courts, and so they will see. I mean, I think they will go through the process, right? Through all the procedures, because it is under the, you know, they want this veil of legality over all of it. So you don't even have to declare martial law in a way, right? Which is scarier. But so they fought it. They're still alive. But like every independent media right now, right? Who knows whether they'll survive? Obviously, COVID is such a game changer. I hope they do. They're still reporting right now. So
Hmm. Um, and I mean, and Rappler it's a very popular site, right? It's a big news source for you know for many people in the Philippines and part of the diaspora outside of the Philippines.
absolutely, because they were the very first ones who really embrace tech and social media. They started on Facebook at Rappler, and they were the very first just purely online publication in the Philippines. So, and in a way, Maria said the pandemic, they were ready for this pandemic because they've had systems in place because they've been under attack for 4 years, right? So they've had plans A, B, C, D, just in case
Mhm.
something happened. Well, it wasn't them being shut down. It was a pandemic, which is being shut down, really. So
Right.
they had systems in place and they were able to adapt and pivot quickly. So in a way, also this is a moment that they were ready for.
I wanted to ask you, not to reduce the importance of what's happening in the Philippines on its own terms or to oversimplify, but clearly, I think there are some lessons for the U.S. here about what's been happening since 2016 in the Philippines, and so I would love to hear get your take on those lessons.
The film Beyond Press Freedom, Beyond the Drug War is really a film about disinformation,
Mm.
right? And Maria tracks that very clearly in the film through graphics, how it starts, grassroots, and it's seeded, and pretty soon power is talking the same language as the trolls. And I think when we screened this at Sundance, a lot of people came up to me and they related to it. Like a lot of Americans related to what was going on in this country. Without that, the film never mentions it, right? As you know, there's only one picture of Trump and Duterte in the film. But I think it parallels the time here because I think because of disinformation, because of not knowing what the truth is. And once you don't know what the truth is, or the goalposts of truth keep moving, then democracy decays, right? Then that is really the erosion of the public space and democratic democracy as we know it. So I think that's a connection. And also the language of impunity of the presidents, right? They say these things that would have been unheard of a few years ago, right? I mean, Duterte speaks about killing people. Okay, Trump has not, to be clear, but that kind of speech that is just so shocking or that incites violence, just like today, right?
Yeah.
What Trump did over Twitter. So I think that is the commonality, that kind of impunity
Hmm.
and no and very few and the very few people shutting them down. And of course, the tech platforms not shutting Duterte down yet.
One last question, which I wanted to focus more personally on you and your work. You for years now, you going back to 2004, as you said, you've become one of the most important chroniclers of life, culture, politics, history in the Philippines. And I'm just wondering, what drives you and where are you headed?
Where am I headed if I knew? What drives me are the stories that I can't turn away from, right? And yeah, yeah, there's still the stories after all this time. It's what I know. I was born and raised in the Philippines, but I was never an adult there,
Mm.
right? I grew up here. I came of age in the US. So all my adult life I've lived here. So I think every time I make a film about the Philippines, it's like this yearning for the motherland, right? A yearning to go back and find out what's going on there, but never wanting to live there again. You know, I think I do have this love-hate relationship with the country. And I love it for all its beauty and the people. And then but the systems don't work and they fail. And I think my making these films is like a response. It's like a trying to sort of understand why the systems don't work. And it's always a starting point. My films are always starting points for deeper discussions, hopefully. In terms of where I'm going, so right after Motherland, I was starting my first fiction,
Oh,
actually. But you know, then the drug war in Duterte happened, and I'm like, oh my God, now I can't. You know, I have to do this. So I did 1,000 Cuts. So right now, I'm hoping to do my first fiction film.
wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much,
And
Ramona,
it's fun.
and also just, to congratulate you not just on 1,000 Cuts, which is a terrific film, but your whole body of work. And
Okay.
you really are one of the great documentary filmmakers working today. So keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you, Ken.
Thank you so much. And then just a reminder to our audience, please tell your friends this film is available to screen through the rest of the day. We'd love to hear from you on social media, hashtag AFI Docs. And please join us for more great films and virtual events, including the forum event that I mentioned earlier with Ramona and Maria, hosted by the Washington Post Press Freedom Partnership. You can learn more at docs.afi.com. And thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.